The rain hadn't stopped that morning. It wasn't falling, it was pressing, sinking into my skin like grief that wouldn't wash off. We had just buried my grandfather, Elias Rowan. He wasn't just family. He was the only person who ever saw me, really saw me. Inside St. Bridget's Church, people spoke about his generosity, his leadership, his heart. My father, Victor Rowan, stood front and center, shaking hands like he was at a campaign rally, not a funeral. For a brief second, I thought maybe grief had softened him. Maybe losing Elias would break through the armor of ambition he wore like a second skin. But hours later, when the guests were gone and the house reeked of wet flowers and stale coffee, I found myself in the drawing room. That's when Victor walked in, his mask gone. He didn't look like a grieving son. He looked like a man who had won. "It's done," he said. I stared at him, not understanding. "For 100 million, he continued, pouring himself a drink. "All in my name." He said it like he was reading the weather report. And then, with a half-smile, he looked at me. "You're useless now. Pack your things. You're out by morning."
Just like that.
My father, the man who once taught me to ride a bike, who preached about ambition and discipline, looked at me like I was trash cluttering his perfect estate. I should have been shocked. But the truth is, I'd been waiting for that blow my whole life. Victor never raised his voice. He didn't need to. Silence was his weapon. A look, a pause, a clipped correction. That was enough to carve me down to size. If I came home with an A, he wanted to know why it wasn't an A+. If I won an award, he reminded me how many others hadn't bothered competing. Praise?
Rare.
And when it came, it felt like pity. But my grandfather Elias, he was different. Being with him was like standing in sunlight after living too long in a cold room. He asked what I wanted, and he listened. Really listened. I still remember the night I got into grad school. Victor called it a waste of time. But Elias? He slid an envelope across the porch table. Enough money to cover my first year. "Don't tell your father," he said. "This is between us. Consider it an investment in someone worth investing in." That was Elias. He believed in me when it cost him something. So, that night, as I stood in my childhood bedroom with my suitcase half-packed, I thought of him. I thought of the quiet pride in his eyes. Victor could throw me out, but he couldn't erase that foundation. And then something shifted. Literally. A book on my shelf slipped forward. Inside it, tucked deep between the pages, was an envelope. My name, written in Elias's hand. I tore it open. Inside, one line. "The will protects those who protect others." No explanation. No instructions. Just that sentence. But it stopped me cold. Why hide this for me to find? Why those words? The next night, I walked into my father's study. The air was thick with cigar smoke and bourbon. He sat in Elias's old chair, smug, untouchable. "You've had a free ride long enough," he told me. "This is my house now. My money. My legacy. You're nothing but baggage." He expected me to beg.
To cry. To break.
But all I felt was the weight of Elias's note in my pocket, burning like a hidden weapon. So I looked him dead in the eye and said one word.
"Fine."
And I walked out. My heart was pounding, but my voice didn't shake. I refused to give him that satisfaction. I moved into a tiny apartment downtown, barely big enough to breathe, but it was mine.
No locked doors.
No eyes measuring me. At night, I kept pulling out Elias's note, reading it over and over. "The will protects those who protect others." It didn't sound like a farewell. It sounded like a clue. 3 days later, my phone rang. An unfamiliar voice said my name. "This is Celeste Ward. I was your grandfather's attorney. We need to talk. His will is unusual." Her office was simple, modern. No grandeur, no distractions. She studied me, almost like she'd been expecting me. "Your grandfather anticipated your father," she said. "He placed the estate into a trust. Your father cannot touch a cent. Not without you." I froze. "What do you mean?" She slid a binder across the desk. "The 400 million can only be unlocked if Victor completes a community redevelopment project with you as co-executor. Equal authority. Equal signatures. Equal power." I just stared. She went on. And if he refuses? Or if he tries to push you out? The trust dissolves. Half goes to charity. The other half goes directly to you. For a long moment, the room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. I thought of my father in that study, smirking like he'd already won. I thought of him telling me I was useless. Elias had planned this. He'd set the board before he died. And my father had no idea how badly he was about to lose. Celeste leaned back, watching me. Victor already knows, she said. I felt something shift inside me, steady, cold, certain. Then I suppose, I said quietly, I should be expecting a knock on my door. And less than 24 hours later, there it was. I used to think Elias left me nothing but memories. But now I see he left me a war. A war with my father. A test of whether I would protect his legacy or let Victor destroy it. Tell me, what would you do if your entire future rested on standing against the very person who raised you? Would you fight? Or would you walk away?